Hi. Never any energy, like what is this? They're right in the minute, they're just doing the campaign. We're back with another LFL Talks today, and today we're going to do something a bit more serious. We've been giving you guys a bit too much banter, thinking we're going to be here for a joking. We're not here for a joking. Talk about today, referendum, and we're going to talk about feminism and some other hot topics, so yeah. Stay tuned.
Today we're talking about topics that are serious, and when we talk about these serious topics it can get a bit heated. Even though we have opposing opinions, we keep it respectful. I would urge you guys to do the same in the comment section. So if you feel like you disagree with anything that we're saying or anything that anyone else is saying in the comment section, you do so with respect.
Would there ever be a time where you would approach him and be like, I beg you, make me your girlfriend? Like, would there, not, okay, obviously not in that language, but I mean, would there ever be a time when you just be like, you know, oh, like, when are you going to ask me, or, like, you know, would you ever approach him and be like, I want to be your girlfriend?
That's ridiculous. That's ridiculous. When I proposed to you as well, I asked you,
honestly,
can we get married? Ridiculous.
It's a deadly mistake. Deadly mistake. The thing is, with guys, you need to wait for a guy to kind of let you know what it is.
First and foremost, we're going to talk about the EU referendum. Obviously, the UK is part of the European Union, and in the UK they're voting as to whether the United Kingdom should stay within the European Union or whether it should leave. Now, what caused this whole voting and referendum palaver? So what had happened was Mr. David Cameron is saying that the European Union imposes too many restrictions on the British government, and what he tried to do was make some negotiations with the European Union, and said that if these were not going to be discussed and not going to be negotiated, he was going to allow the UK to vote whether we should stay in the European Union or whether we should leave the European Union. Example of some of these restrictions will be in regards to immigration. As of now, any person that migrates from a country that is part of the European Union into the UK, they are entitled to housing and to benefits. Now, David Cameron wanted to impose a law whereby any migrant from the countries of the European Union, they would have to be a citizen for at least 4 years, and they would have to be not only a citizen but a contributing citizen to Britain. Now, the European Union, they were very opposed to this, and for that reason the European Parliament voted against this. So then from then forward, David Cameron said, okay, let's just put it to a vote and see what the UK has to say about it.
In terms of the kind of the structure and the policy making of the EU, people say that it's non-democratic, and some people even go as far to say it's anti-democratic, purely because of the fact that you have a group of people, commissioners, who the people have not elected. We do not know who they are. I don't think we have a right to even hear their delegations or read what they talk about, but they have the ability to pass laws that will affect every single one of the 27 or 28 member states in the EU that affect us. And as a country in Britain, we pride ourselves on being a democratic country. So we know that we can elect a government who is supposed to serve us, and if they do some dumb stuff with the money that we're paying in taxes or whatever, we can take them out of power and elect a new government. Now, with the EU, you can't do that because, number one, you didn't elect them, you don't know who they are, and thirdly, if they are to pass an EU law, there's no actual democratic way of you being able to appeal that law. So once EU law is imposed, it's imposed, and everybody has to abide by it, and that's just not democracy, to be honest. And I just feel like it's quite cheeky of them, because the allowance that these people get as being in part of the EU, about 10,000 employees of the EU members get paid more than David Cameron himself. Now, what are you doing? Why do you have access to all of these luxuries? They've got access to private healthcare, private schooling for their kids, leisure. Some of the men as well get free Viagra, and it's like, why should our money, they say it's about £350 million a week, but I heard it's a bit lower than that, but they say it's about £350 million a week, we pay it over to Brussels. Why does a proportion of that money go to these people's lifestyles who we do not know, who we have not elected? And even just going off of what Uvie was saying, like they said, if you take secondary legislation and primary legislation and put it together, the EU basically do just give us 60% of our rights. So how can a group of people outside of our country who do not know what it's like to live in our country be able to pass laws about how we in our country should live. From that point, you can just go into the whole immigration thing. So what they're saying is that because we're part of the EU, we have no control over our borders as a country. You would think that a government of a country would be able to control who they let in and out of their country. But because we're in the EU, our borders are completely uncontrolled to people who are in the EU. And this is a big problem. And I looked at some of the immigration statistics, and I found out that in terms of the amount of people fluctuating into the EU at the moment, we would have to build a new house every 4 minutes to cope with the amount of immigration that we've got at the moment.
They exaggerate, man.
Just even sticking onto the immigration stuff, right, with the whole building houses every 4 minutes, and they're saying that generally they estimate that we are looking at the population of Newcastle coming in every year.
This is scare tactics. So this is why I'm always, because they bring these, a new house every single 4 minutes.
It's kind of hard to know what is the reality and what is not the reality, because either side of the campaign are just giving, it's like they're manipulating the statistics or manipulating whatever information they're giving to you. So it's kind of hard to know where to stand.
Okay, so let's just take, for example, this whole £350 million. That's quite a skewed number. It's more like, let's just say, between 80 to about 100 million. That is still a lot of money per week. They're saying with that money we can build a new hospital in the UK. It can go back into our NHS, the money we're giving over to Brussels. So regardless of whether it seems like it's an exaggeration, the reality of the situation is that we could be doing a lot more with the money that we're giving over to them. When at the end of the day, at the moment, the EU membership is not doing much for us apart from being able to travel freely through the other countries, giving us free use of our mobile phone, and being able to study in these European countries. Apart from that, I do not see any other benefit with being in the EU.
One another benefit is prevent the countries having problems with each other. So that's why they initially joined the EU, because I think there was maybe a lot of rivalry or tension between the countries. So if they all have to work together and they all kind of share one trade system, they're less likely to fight with each other because it'll just create issues.
Okay, that's fair enough, but we're now in 2016 in a place where I have a good relationship with France, who just happens to be in the EU. I have a good relationship with Germany, who happens to be in the EU, or whichever countries. I very much highly doubt that because you leave the EU, you're going to have a World War III.
I don't think it'll be World War III, but I mean, how will they be affected by the UK leaving the EU? Yeah, because they might see it as a selfish decision, and then we don't know how it will affect us as a country, how it will affect our trade, how it will affect other things. If we don't know, we don't know France's or any other countries in Europe's direct impact on helping the UK.
The argument would be that, okay, we don't want to stop these people coming into the country, because as much as you might want to call them unskilled workers, they do come and do the jobs that these people in the UK, they don't want to do. It's as if you're trying to say that if we left these jobs open to the UK people are going to do them, but we can see that the UK people don't do them, which is why these non-skilled immigrants will come in and do something for us. You're acting as if they don't do nothing for us, which is ridiculous.
That is true. And then what they're saying, they're just basically saying they want a system close to what Australia have. Australia, they're able to say, they look at the people who want to come into the country, look at them, see, okay, what type of skill set do you have? So we need more doctors, we need more nurses or lawyers. If you fit this criteria, we'll let you in. We're not going to take people who will come and be a burden to our economy.
Do you think that they're a burden to the economy?
Well, what they're saying is the fact that our borders are uncontrolled, we take in whoever. So the unskilled people who are coming and who cannot speak English and who are claiming benefits and are claiming housing are a burden to our society.
Okay, that's what they're
saying.
So
what about the people down in England that can speak English and choose not to work? Are they still not a burden to society?
They are a burden to our society.
We can't get rid of them.
Yeah, that's nothing to do with the EU.
I was researching today, I was saying that a lot of people that migrate into the UK, they are young people and they are willing to work as well. And I don't think that's been taken into account in general. Like, as they have always said, immigrants have built this country. Definitely. They've helped build the economy. And even if it's been in large numbers, it has been beneficial. So when we stop them coming and we limit the amount of them coming in, how is the economy going to be affected when they're already predicting like an economic fall because we are leaving the EU?
With the whole economic situation, right? So the people who say that we shouldn't leave the EU, they're saying that we're going to get a recession, and it's going to be twice as worse than the last recession based on their statistics. And they said that the economy will suffer 2 to 9% losses. And then they also said there's issues with unemployment, because they said that there's millions of jobs that are associated with the European Union. And obviously if we leave, then these jobs are at risk. They additionally said that there's concerns for business. Now the concerns for business is that there are many businesses that have come to the UK, and obviously they come to the UK because the UK gives them access to Europe. Now people are claiming that these businesses are going to leave for number one because they're going to have to pay taxes. But the UK right now is negotiating to reduce corporation taxes such that that will cover the cost of export.
With this whole thing about the recession, there is just this cloud of unknown as to what will happen if we leave. And also at the moment, the Europe or the Eurozone or whatever is the most stagnant economy in the whole entire world, so they say. Now if we continue to stay in this Eurozone, or we continue to stay in this economy, the rate of growth will be a lot slower. So yeah, we could stay here and be with the devil that we know, or we could risk the chance of actually having a recession, some economic instability for a few years, and then flourish. Because if you look at some of the other countries within Europe who are not actually part of the EU, they are experiencing some prosperous economic growth that Britain can only desire to go to. I mean, let's go for example for Switzerland. So Switzerland is in the EU, you know, it's always the cliche that they always go for, but why do they go for that? Let's have a look. Switzerland, mate, it is arguably one of the richest countries in the entire world. And in terms of their capital, or whatever city, Zurich is, again, one of the richest cities in the world, and has been for centuries, because they're not in the EU. They have the ability to make their own laws and make completely free trade deals with countries within and outside of the EU. And one of the things that the Remain Party always says is, oh, we're not going to have jobs. Oh, our economy is going to... it's going to be a recession or whatever, or we're going to have we can't trade with countries within the EU. But like I said, Switzerland has many trade deals with countries within the EU, China, US, and other countries in Africa as well.
That's what Beverley is saying with the whole trade deal and stuff. The argument for leaving, they're saying, okay, in the long term, well, it should hopefully benefit the UK. Obviously, no one negates that there's going to be a recession, but with us leaving, the fact that Europe is so unstable right now, they need the UK to keep trading. So what that puts the UK at an advantage to negotiate a trade deal. You're not really going to say no, because what you going to do without us, boo?
Exactly. At the moment, Britain is one of the biggest contributors to this single trade economy. If we are to leave and they are not to negotiate a trade deal with us, what's going to happen to Germany, where their biggest trading is their cars, BMW, Audi? Look outside, see how many BMW cars they are. They need Britain for their trade as much as we need them. So of course they're going to cut a trade deal with us. Yes, we don't know what type of trade deal is going to be, but it is in their best interest to do so. That being said, I just want to go back to Switzerland and talk about the fact that Switzerland has so many humongous companies such as Nestle, Rolex, Tag and Breitling, all these watch companies, Lindt, they're all Swiss companies. And the reason why they have the ability to flourish so much is because they don't have the EU imposing tariffs and quotas and all these regulations and stifling competition, because that's what the EU does with these protection laws, prevents competition. And when you stifle competition, you prevent economic growth.
This whole thing, I just want to give a discllaimer. If we're saying statistics, you're thinking that's not what I heard. Girl, I've seen statistics here that says this. I've seen statistics here that says that. That's what Beverley's saying about the billions. What I heard is that the cost to stay part of the European Union to the UK is one of their biggest contributors, and it's about was net 11.3 or either 8 billion to stay as part of the EU. Now, obviously, the last the NHS is going to break down. Can we not take some of these billions and keep our NHS afloat? Not just the NHS, I'm just talking in general in terms of the UK. We could use that for whatever you want to do. The money can be put somewhere within this country, as opposed to, because what it contributes to is to keeping other countries within the European Union afloat, so that they can have the same, almost quite an equal playing field. But the question is that our responsibility?
Neil.
It's the moral thing.
Yeah, it's a moral thing to do.
Like I said, you have to look after your own children before you start looking after other people's children. In terms of all of this recession stuff as well, they told us that if we did not join that Eurozone, that all our banks would crumble, gave us all of these scare tactics, but we didn't join the Eurozone. And look at us. We're not like these crumbling economies, telling us that if we leave the EU, we're not going to have jobs. What's going to happen to these jobs? What do you mean you need the jobs as much as we do?
My issue with these people that want to leave and the immigration, when you watch their videos on YouTube and they're discussing immigration, you don't seem racist. So that's why it's like, I don't really want to be on the same side as you guys. Like, all of you lot UKIP out there, I'm not really trying to be associated with you people.
Oh, they can't speak English, they can't speak English. A lot of people in this country that are born and bred English, they can barely speak English properly themselves, and they are British born. So this whole, I can't speak English, people that are non-English, they work in factories, they work in hospitals, they work in schools, and they can function, and they contribute to the economy. So this whole, can't speak English,
don't understand
to me, it means nothing.
When you're talking about immigration, you need to be very, very careful about what you're saying, because like we said, these immigrants have built your country. I said, if you go into places like, go and walk on the high street, Indians, is it not the Indians or the Asian people who are mostly in the off-license shops? These are the people who are driving the economy that you're fighting so hard to keep afloat. Well, according to them, they say it's border control, but when you have people like Nigel Farage as the face of this Brexit, I find it very hard to trust anything that's coming out of your mouth. Nevertheless, I still feel like border control is necessary.
And also because this whole immigration thing, like okay, I can claim if I sign I can say British, Black, African, but at the end of the day, my parents moved here from Nigeria.
That's fair enough, but the thing is that there's other countries who are doing this exactly the same thing, Australia, and I feel like because people are talking about immigration, people are saying that these people are racist.
No, it's not just it's UKIP. I don't know who's talking about in Canada. I don't know who's talking about in Australia, but here it's UKIP.
Okay. But it's not just UKIP, but UKIP is the face in terms of like the economy. So what they were saying, oh, we can't make trade deals and whatever. Now, if we go and talk about simply the profit, so the GDP that countries within the EU make from trade deals, they make 5.5 trillion pounds, of GDP from their trade deals. Then you have a country like Switzerland make a total 29.2 trillion, and they're not part of the EU, and this is out of the trade deals that they have made with countries within the EU. And then you've got a country like Singapore, which make 35.5 trillion. Then you've got South Korea, which make 5.2 trillion.
What's South Korea like? Because my question now is like
let me finish. And then Chile, which has a population of 8 million people, 50.3 trillion GDP. That's what they make. And then if you want to even cheat and then bring, like, as in the single trade, add what we make from the EU. So basically the EU has a trade deal with itself. Altogether it comes up to 8.8 trillion. This is all 27 of the member states.
What you're saying, but with the countries we're talking about, Chile, Singapore, South Korea,
how are
there is a lot of corruption. So
what's the lifestyle like?
This is my whole issue. Even if we are making more money in the economy or whatever, we're making more money in the UK, more money is coming into the UK, we have more money from trade or whatever.
What does that do for the regular
What does it do for the regular folk? Because in South Korea, in Singapore, in Chile, like, when people are poor, they are 10 times more poor than people who are claimed as the working class in the UK. How is it going to affect
the regular
folk? Because from the trade deals, who's going to get more money? The businesses.
The rich people.
The rich people keep getting richer every single time, and the poor people keep getting poorer. How is this going to benefit us?
I'll tell you. Let's take away Chile. Let's take away South Korea. We'll take Switzerland, right? Country who's in Europe, and they are the richest at the moment. They say that Switzerland, they pay the least taxes. In terms of them saying about what's going to happen with our unemployment rates, 83% of the population in Switzerland of working age are working, which is the highest in any country in the EU. In terms of the unemployment, they have 4.2% unemployment. And
full stop in the whole population?
Full stop. And everywhere else in the EU come up to about 10.2. Cool. Keep going. In terms of the wage of the average person in Switzerland, give me a figure. I dare you.
50,000.
Keep going.
60.
Boom. Let's say round about 60,000 pounds.
60,000 what? Pounds or euro?
Well, it said on the thing it said pounds. Pounds. Average wage is 60,000 pounds for a person in Switzerland, and Britain is 32. We are sitting in the EU. Oh no, sorry. So that was the GDP. That's not the average wage. Better paid average wages. The average is 67,000. Sorry, and the UK average is 38,000. And in terms of the discrepancy between the poorer people and the richer people, a lot less than other places in the EU. So if you want to take away Chile, take it away.
Yeah.
Take away South Korea.
With South Korea, so
South Korea,
their ruler, whoever he is, that guy's a monster. My question is, okay, Switzerland has never been in the EU. It's difficult to look at Switzerland and then take the UK and then compare it and say that the results that Switzerland have experienced will be representative of what the UK will experience if they were to leave the EU. Also, when you talked about the unemployment levels, I think there's kind of like our socialisation is different. The way that we are socialised in England and the way that they are socialised in Switzerland are completely different. So they may be, as Uvie said, encouraged to work, or are their school leaving ages the same? Do they start work at an earlier age?
Okay, yeah, I agree. In terms of, we can't even, any country, we cannot say that our country is going to be the same. But it's something we can aspire to. It's something that we can say, okay, well, it's working for them. Norway is working for them. Iceland is working for them. So why do we feel like UK, as much of a reputation as the United Kingdom has in terms of sovereignty, in terms of armed power, why do we feel like we cannot achieve what they can achieve?
Well, the people that are saying that we should stay in the UK, they're claiming that the European Union, they have such a, say in international affairs because of the union they have, and they're claiming if the UK leave this European Union, we're not really going to have that big influence. It's an argument, but at the end of the day, I feel like we are a force to be reckoned with. Like, they said, what can an island like the UK do? But if we look back in history, you've seen the UK is out here causing all kinds of havoc.
Another issue of why people say they want to stay in the EU is in relation to the human rights. The EU have enforced a lot of human rights that benefit us today, and they said if we leave the EU, British people are going to enforce their own British human rights.
What does that mean?
What does that entail? We need documents, we need some information, we need to know how we're going to be affected by this. I feel like there's a lot of, like you said, was saying before, a lot of grey area. I feel like we're still so uninformed.
Another argument as the people that say we should stay in the EU is that, okay, so if we now leave the European Union, we're going to have to be trading under certain laws enforced by the European Union, and like Norway and Iceland, we won't actually have any say in terms of what the laws are controlling the market. But like I said before, we are the second to last after France. We are the most underrepresented country within the European Parliament. Other concerns of us being part of the European Union is that, according to the Telegraph, by 2020, every country that is part of the European Union must use the euro as the currency, and obviously the euro is quite unstable at this moment in time, and it will also fluctuate because of weaker countries. So the question is, does the UK, who has a pound which is stronger than the euro, really want to be part of this whole European Union?
It seems like this argument has been pretty much to leave.
We like to come forward and give you guys both sides of the argument. I've done my research, I've tried, and I can't find enough information to give you a reason to stay in the European Union.
Okay, so I was on Twitter as you are, just browsing the timeline, and then I stumbled across the most ridiculous thing I've seen since I've been alive for 22 years. And it was a woman that tweeted, it says, "This needs to stop, please join our cause, #feminism, #not a monster." And upon opening the post, this is what the post said: "While giving birth to a male, a penis is inside a female's vagina without consent."
Oh,
let's just pause. The male learns at birth that it's okay to have your penis inside a woman regardless of consent. Let's pause again. Statistically, that means 100% of men can grow up to be potential rapists. #not another monster. As in, I am, left speechless once again.
Sad.
What an abomination. Like, where do you expect the male's penis to be whilst he's growing inside of his mum's womb? Should he now go and collect it outside after he's finished leaving the birth canal?
Absolutely ridiculous.
Sad. It's very sad.
Absolutely. So I was discussing it with my colleagues and was like, well, you know what? Apparently, women can rape men as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that makes all women 100% potential rapists as well.
And women can rape women as well because they do get in prison.
So what should we do? Stop breeding? I personally feel like people who agree with this kind of statement, you shouldn't have children.
No.
Let's just say there's more or less 50% as to whether it's going to be a boy or a girl. You're saying that if you breed a boy, you're potentially breeding a rapist, and also that boy hasn't got consent. So maybe you should just opt out of having a child.
I just think it's ridiculous because it just makes people think that things like feminism are a joke.
Yeah.
And it makes it take the whole concept and think that everyone who supports feminism is stupid because it's the kind of things that you support. Sorry, my question just still remains, where do you want his penis to grow?
Where?
Maybe I should leave it at the woman. Where would you like the guy's penis to grow?
Where?
Should we now be harvesting them outside of the womb? And then now we should attach them once they come out of the birth canal? I don't understand. Because if you feel like you're going to give birth to a potential rapist, that's really your own. Don't come and decorate every woman's womb with rapists now. It's got nothing to do with us. That's your own womb, please. This hasn't really got anything to do with any of our... But really and truly, guys, I know everybody has seen Angela Simmons, you are pregnant. I can't believe this. This girl has been all over the internet and celebrating and virgining. Girl, what's going on? Just January 2016, you were on the Breakfast Club saying that, yeah, you don't have sex, you're celibate. Okay, I all understand we all fall short of grace sometimes, Angela, but what happened along the way? Because it's not like, oh, you just had sex. Like you've gone from not having sex to being pregnant, from being a virgin to being pregnant. This isn't immaculate conception, you know. So it's like all along people feel like, okay, you've been saying you're celibate, have you been lying to us all along? Because people have used you as inspiration, which, you know, you didn't put yourself out there to be a role model, but you know, it's just what happens. Yeah. So Angela Simmons, I love you, girl, but we need some answers. That's all. I need some like Oprah interview or something.
She might have just decided to change her mind, you know.
It's absolutely fine, you know, but that, for me, that one line underneath that Instagram post was, you know, Angela, come on, Bible quote something.
So that brings us to the end of our lengthy and hopefully very informative discussion. Just would like to reiterate what Uvie said, respectful comments, and just share the video, like it, subscribe to our channel. So LFL baby!